Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first discussion of the book The White Luck Warrior by R. Scott Bakker. This is the second book of the Aspect Emperor series, and the fifth book in the second Apocalypse series, if you're looking at them as seven books. We will be working our way through this, like with all of the others, about 100 pages every week approximately. We're reading a different edition of the book this time, but I think the UK paperback, if that's the one we're following, to approximately a little over 100 pages. Today we're going to be talking about chapters 1 through 3, and next week discussion will be chapters 4 through 6. If you'd like to read along with us or talk about this book with us, either here in the discussion group or on the forum, consider checking out the Page Chewing forum. But with that said, with me, I have the usual group of friends. Steve, would you like to start us off with introductions?
Sure. I'm Steve from Page Chewing, and it's going to be fun discussing this one. So happy to be here.
And you next.
Oh yeah, me. Yeah. And I'm Dan from my house, and I've read this book before many times, and I'm glad to discuss it again.
Nice.
And I'm Justin. I'm a first-time reader, and I'm suddenly worried that I'm the only one reading the Penguin the Penguin Canada version.
Ooh, that looks nice.
It's pretty nice.
Yeah.
It's like got a good heft to it.
But, yeah, it looks solid. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think we'll probably divide it into approximately 6 parts. I'm thinking 6, but we can also do 5 if the rest of the group thinks so. But anyway, 1/6 of whatever edition you're reading each week. Cool. So did anyone have noticed anything interesting in the what has come before bit? I know we were talking about how that has some hidden information sometimes. Sorry, go ahead. Oh, I was going to say, did the first bit just, I didn't check this, but does it just a repeat of what was at the what has come before of the judging eye? Or did it have any changes?
It added a couple of things.
I see. Okay.
Little bits and pieces.
Yeah.
As you go through the series, there's always little sneaky additions.
Yeah.
The interesting thing, but it's been mentioned a couple of other times, is because they say when Kalos meets Moengus. Oh, hi, Carl.
Hey, Carl.
We were discussing if there's anything interesting in the what comes before of the book.
I wasn't blown away by it in terms of I wasn't shocked by anything in it, but I missed something that was subtle.
I think it's because we've been reading through the appendices, so a lot of the stuff that's in the appendices, but not in the actual content, would be sort of mentioned there. But one thing I was interested again was the fact that he mentions when Kalos meets Moengus, it says, Moengus didn't prepare for Kalos to go mad. Right. It's put so matter-of-factly that he's crazy, right? That it's not seeing a revelation or anything. So I'm wondering if it means anything.
Judging Eye was the same way too.
Yeah. So I don't know. Who is writing these? What came before? Not a Camion, is it? It doesn't feel like it should be. I don't know.
Definitely not a Camion.
Yeah. The appendices, we sort of conjectured that it might be a Camion, but it was unclear whether it was by a Camion or just information as a Camion would have access to. One thing, I'm very curious about whose opinions or ideas these appendices are supposed to present, because there's this line that I highlighted, and the lust for knowledge has ever been a cancer in the hearts of men. Is that the author's opinion? Is that something that is considered a bad thing in this world? Or that is an interesting statement, and
that feels to me like an Acamian quote. Even though he certainly is someone who seeks knowledge, it almost feels like something he would also say too.
Or something from
Yeah,
Agensis or something, right?
Hmm.
I do feel like Agensis is pro knowledge, but maybe
Yeah,
that
but
maybe something he would say too. Yeah,
he's
maybe.
pro knowledge, but also realistic of the world and how it is, I guess. I don't know.
That was an interesting thing from the appendix that like we didn't talk about him very much, but Agensis was like he seemed to be much more philosophically ahead of his time, I guess you could say. He definitely seemed, to be evoking a lot of, ideas I definitely associate with like the Enlightenment or things like that. I mean, I know you can go back to like antiquity, and some people were, talking in really broad, but complex philosophical ideas that we still use today. But I still think that a lot of it was maybe it's just not necessarily where we are today, or where we were even a few hundred years ago. But Agensis was really like, he was on it. He was really like, tackling kind of human nature and morality in interesting ways.
Yeah. But there's also a mention, I think, in his part in the epilogue or something, about some of his metaphysics, which I was like surprised that he knew that. I'm not going to say what it is, but I was kind of surprised. Like, how did he manage to know that information? Because it's very, yeah. Or it's somewhere. It's somewhere. Maybe it's not in his part of appendixes, but it's something that's been attributed, or maybe Akamian says, "Oh, Jason says about this thing about reality," and I was like, "That's interesting," because I'm on it like a philosopher. How would a philosopher know? He wasn't a wizard, was he? He was just a normal philosopher.
Right, just a philosopher.
I don't know. Seems very smart, let's say.
It does. Yeah, it does make you wonder. I mean, I don't know, obviously, what specifically you're referring to. I don't know if it's a spoiler for later books or something like that. But it would be interesting if he is. There's more to his story, I guess, that we maybe we'll never find out. Maybe it's just like implications, in the background of like, there's more going on than him just being a philosopher. That he had some sort of connection to, I guess you could say, the outside.
Yeah, because I've seen some people mention things in discussions about, oh, what does that mean, or why did that happen, in the forums, stuff like that, like quite in-depth discussion, like talking about that same point. And which is not described, I think, anywhere in the book, like explicitly, apart from what he says. So I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. It's at some point we'll discuss it when we discuss the theories, I guess, of certain things.
You're gonna have to remember to bring that up when we finish the series.
It's a very, how to say, it's a quite fundamental metaphysical point of the world. So I think we'll get back to it, I guess.
Makes sense. This other thing also that I underlined here, I don't know if this was in the one for the judging eye, but it says the first men could discern the joints of existence founded the men who could discern the joints of existence founded the first sorceress schools, which I think builds on top of all the other things we know about sorcery. And this feels like it's sort of confirming the hypothesis that sorcery is a rewriting of reality in some sense. And that's, well, it's unclear whether that's what the mark is, but that was just interesting from a metaphysical, is that the right word? Metaphysical point of view.
Yeah. And who knows why certain people can do that and others can't.
Yeah.
Does I don't know. Doesn't the school that became the consult seem a little bit more sympathetic, because they did discover that magic users don't have to be damned, and they found a way around that, they seem a little. I mean, I know this is a stretch from what we know. I mean, I'm not just, But just if you read what came before, if you just went into the series just reading the what has come before, they do seem a little like they were trying to do the right thing. If you didn't know the other stuff, but
I don't
they
know
do
if I
seem,
agree with that though,
No?
because I mean, I feel like it was determined that sorcerers are damned, and I feel like what was discovered is that if they are able to close the world from the outside by killing everybody, then they don't have to be damned, right? So like, is that the secret that they discovered, that they don't have to be damned? I mean, that's how I read that.
Maybe closing the outside is a good thing.
Maybe, yeah, but maybe murdering, millions of people is a good thing too.
Listen, Just you can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs, okay?
Just like a few million or a billion eggs.
We just keep coming back to that trolley problem.
Yeah.
But I mean, why are you saying? Yeah, why are you saying that it's good? That sorcerers should not be damned? Why is that the right thing?
I guess they could be used for good, right? I mean, if someone is if someone is a magic user, why do they have to be damned?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what is good in this world, right? If a universe was created by God and modifying the fundamental structure of the universe is, that would, I could see that as being a sin, like strictly a sin, and right, and being bad.
I mean, they could help against the Inquiry,
I guess.
against the Ark. I guess
True.
the other thing that stuck out, speaking of the Ark, that crash seemed a lot more violent and epic than it did before, because it talked about the impact and the damage it did out of falling from the sky.
Yeah, the creation of the Ring Mountains, all that.
Yeah.
So one other question I had was why, and I've had this for a while, I just keep forgetting to bring it up for discussion, but why is the First Ordeal considered a holy war? And for that matter, the current Great Ordeal also, it's considered a holy war of sorts. But let's say that one's because a god is at the head of it. Why was the First Ordeal considered a holy war?
I mean, it's not named as the first holy war. I guess if you're fighting for literal, like, if we're taking, I mean, it's not even taking for granted at this point, because we know stuff like, they're trying to seal off the outside, right? So they're essentially trying to seal off heaven and hell, it seems like. And so in that case, it's literally this metaphysical battle on the physical realm, based around, kind of like what Dan was talking about. Like, if there are these just like intrinsic morals to the universe, as horrible as they may be to our perspective, then it's like kind of inherently a holy war, and the consult is like inherently diabolic.
Makes sense. Yeah, I didn't think of the closing off of the outside thing, because like this is referred to as, what is it? The non-man called on his tributaries and allies to join him in a holy war against Min or Oroicus. Anyway, yeah, I was like, what religion or holiness are you preserving with said holy war? But that makes sense.
Well, no, you raise an interesting point there too, that like, so far as we understand, the non-men worship darkness and ignorance, and like they don't worship the gods or a god, not as we have been led to view them, and certainly I think not as humans typically view them. And so did they view it? Are we supposed to read that as like the non-men viewed it as a holy war, or this is written from the perspective of humans, and it's just recounting the fact that the non-men fought this war that was essentially the first holy war in a sense? Because it doesn't really seem like it lines up with their sense of religion, but I don't know. I guess it's still a little unclear, especially because our primary expositor our primary POV for the non-men beliefs and everything is super crazy, and really they all are. So it's like, they're all like unreliable narrators to the nth degree. So it's hard to know for certain exactly what that means.
Yeah.
Although I guess it was a Camion who told us about. Wait, was it? No, it was Cleric who talked about the darkness and ignorance, right? Or was that a Camion?
Yeah.
It
That was clear.
It came in.
It was a Camion? Okay.
It was a came in, right?
Well, even then, he's flawed, right?
Maybe
Because
not. Maybe all of them.
he's
I don't know.
talking. Anytime he is talking about the non-men, he's obviously talking from the perspective of someone who studied them or potentially known them as Seswatha or whoever, So I flawed POVs all around, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Maybe holy was just sort of like an exaggerated adjective to describe it. It mean more to me like a just war. It's like a good versus evil war sort of thing.
That makes sense. But also in using holy as an exaggeration, everything associated with Callus is apparently holy. The holy, I don't know. There were like 3 or 4 different things I noted, which were very simplistic, but they had the prefix holy attached to them, both in the judging eye and in this section. It's almost funny how they do that.
That propaganda is strong. Yeah.
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 Yeah, I think it was his holy horse or something. I don't know.
The holy horse, really? I don't remember that one. Maybe.
I mean, sure, the horse he rides must be holy, right?
Is he on a horse? I thought he flew everywhere or something.
Does he even in the Great Ordeal?
I thought he was like sort of like sitting cross-legged like a Buddha or something, floating around. That's how I imagined him.
That's actually an even funnier picture.
That is
Well,
one.
he's described a bit like that at some point, right? When he appears in the
Definitely.
umbilical or something like that, like with his hands like this and just in a flash of brightness or something.
Yeah,
No.
he's floating around
Yeah.
for sure.
But that's when he's sitting, right? Like, is that how he gets around? Like, is that when the Holy War is marching? Kellis is just
Maybe.
gently floating. I like that picture. I'm gonna assume that that's true. Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen that. We see. Okay, is it in this part? Because I read one chapter extra, so stop me if I'm seeing something that hasn't happened yet. If we get Proyas talking to Kellis.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So we do, yeah.
And some interesting
Also,
interpretations there.
yeah, we see him in his tent, I guess. He's not floating then. He's acting normal, right?
I thought so, yeah.
That was an interesting chapter, what was it?
Oh, it was. It was yeah, it was interesting also, like he wasn't floating, but to Proyas it seemed like no one was there and then he just showed up. So did he teleport there like he does? Or yeah, it felt like he revealed himself out of the darkness.
Yeah.
Do you now understand that you'll never understand?
Oh yeah. Yeah, he says that, doesn't he? Yeah.
He really knows how to play everyone. But yeah, even the reader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's fun to get more of Proyas though, isn't it?
Oh,
he's a very interesting character.
He's back.
Yeah.
And he's
conflicted.
He's sadder than ever.
Yeah.
I love it.
I was almost disappointed. I mean, it was really cool. I loved that reveal, but I was disappointed that it was so boring that when Sorvi looks at the fire and sees something staring back at him, and it turns out to be Proyas just eavesdropping on their conversation. Well, actually Kellis, but I think it was Proyas who was literally staring back at him that time. So that was funny, but yeah, it was very, very interesting. So it was interesting both because one, Kellis, you find out that Kellis knows everything about what's going on with Sorville, probably. And I have a theory that one of the reasons why he declared him the believer king is to exactly create the schism in his friendship with what's his name? Sorang. The
Saranga?
Zumi. Yeah, Soranga.
I think something
And
like that.
and the other reason is like you don't think of Kellis. It's hard to think of Kellis as this like common eavesdropper, like he's just listening in on people's conversations. It's a really difficult way to picture him, but it worked. It worked nevertheless. So that was interesting.
I agree with you that I think he named Shortwheel as a believer king, to create a schism. And I think also in a way as sort of like not only through the schism, but like through his own sort of social pressure, like push him to actually become that, like we'll see if it works, but I definitely get the sense that like he's almost like gaslighting Swordwheel into believing he is this, divine entity. There's like, yeah, you believe that, right? And sort of like, I don't know what. And he's like, no, you believe it. Like I can see it in your eyes. I can read people. You believe it. And sort of like, wait, do I believe it? And so I think that may be part of it too. Like he's just, he's Callous master manipulator.
But is the blessing that Sorwheel received, is that sort of insulating him from Callus's influence a little bit? And that's like, is he able to even like have that inner dialogue instead of just being straight converted like most people are by Callus? Like I'm curious about that. Like what's going on with the blessing that he received from.
But you don't think Callus would see that and manipulate him?
Well, I don't know, because like
maybe
Callus is like, now it's like you're rocking with like the gods, so it's perhaps there's like, this is maybe beyond Callus, like maybe this
right
thing, or beyond.
I was gonna say is that even something Callus can see? Like he could theoretically, like, unless his ability to read people is so great, like physically and the Dunyan of it all, that somehow, which just to me is comical. Like I can't imagine how he would be able to see a blessing that he, like I just can't wrap my head around that. But yeah, like I feel like it would have to be almost magical if he can. I don't know that we've had any implication that he can see that.
He does no magic,
right? Like this is,
I don't know.
I mean, we don't even know the nature of it fully, right? Other than that there's some sort of Yatwirian blessing going on, and it probably is real and not just, superstition.
Yeah, it's definitely not your garden variety sorcery. This is like of another. Yeah, this is something else, I feel like. So maybe it's not something Callus has encountered. So
that is the interesting X factor here, right? That I totally did not expect coming into the series, and I'm really enjoying, is that there is this whole other force now that are like, in a sense, inarguably beyond Callus that he's having to contend with, but they can't interfere directly. It seems like, the gods, for whatever reason, they have to act through people, but they can like bless them and curse them. And I don't know. It's, it definitely, it's something I don't think Callus is prepared for, in the same way that when he left, Ithrithau, what's the name of the city?
Ishwal?
Yes, Ishual. Thank you. I don't know why I forgot the name. Atrithau is a different place. Yes, Ishual, that, he didn't know magic existed. He thought it was all a myth. And so now it's like, I mean, he believes in the gods now, but he's not, I don't know that he's aware that they're like the way that they're combating him.
I mean, he didn't know magic, and then he sort of conquered magic.
Right.
Like, he didn't know about the gods, and now he knows about gods. Maybe who knows?
Yeah, it's definitely true.
Well,
like I wouldn't put it beyond him to have, contingencies in place and to be actively trying to maneuver against them and around them. But it also makes you wonder, right? Because he believes that he is genuinely like the son of God, and that God is like the gods. So how does that work if they are working against him, like in his brain, what is, I guess that is in a sense a sort of madness, right? That he is like convinced of, it's sort of the circular logic that doesn't really make sense. It is contradictory.
There's some sense.
There were rumors that he's been to hell, right? Sorry, Dan, were you going to say something?
Nothing. Go ahead.
Yeah, there were rumors in the last book that he's been to hell, right? I don't know, is there a heaven equivalent that he could have visited to, or did the visit to hell give him some information that would help him discern the motives of gods and act against them?
We did hear, this doesn't answer your question, Varsha, not really, but we did hear finally for the first time that there are apparently 100 heavens and 1,000 hells. Unless that's just like a saying, but like for the first time we were given some sort of like number, knowledge, like some grounding for their beliefs. And given that a number of the beliefs seem to be concretely real, not least damnation, I would probably, at this point, I'm just taking things at face value, not what the character's necessarily motivations, but like the beliefs. I'm increasingly like, maybe this is all just real, which I was completely opposite that. I went in very much modern minded, like skeptical of like all of the gods and stuff. And now I'm like, shit, Yatwer's like up to something, like, damn it, the wizards are damn, like, I guess, or sorcerers, I guess all this is real.
But if I didn't catch the 1,000 hells thing at all, but if that's true, the Kosoter, the captain of the Skin Eaters, he says I would know if this was hell, because leading us to believe that he's been there. He doesn't say so explicitly. So I don't know. Does he not believe in the 1,000 hells thing, or do they all look the same?
Maybe he went to one of them.
Right.
Yeah. No, but then how? If he believes that there are thousands of them, how would he be so sure that he would recognize it? Anyway, sorry. I think Justin, I interrupted you earlier. But...
Oh, I think I was just going to say that since we're not getting the Kellis POV in this series, like we're forced to make certain assumptions about him. I think maybe during the last discussion where I wasn't at, somebody mentioned, like, is Kellis, like, has he just gone ahead and mastered the other schools' forms of anagogic sorcery? And that made me wonder, like, is he practicing demotic sorcery, the stuff that the Scarlet Spires guy was doing, and like, is that how he came by those nifty demon heads that he dangles from his girdle?
That would make sense. That's a good point.
And I can't imagine him not doing that, right? Like, what reason would there be?
Yeah,
unless there's just, I don't know.
He's like,
unless it's impossible, but
aren't we given to understand that the Gnostic school is a superset of all the other schools, that anything you can do with the others, you can do with this?
It's like pure. It's like at least how Akamian thought of it in the first trilogy was like, it gets down to like the fundamental, truth of things in a way that the others, schools use analogies, right? They're not speaking of the thing. They're like analogizing about it, right?
That's why they have to make dragons and stuff, and Akamian's like raising, shapes. Patterns.
But I think that the demon summoning is like a separate branch, just like the magic nullifying branch and the other things. I think it's just a very different one.
That makes sense. And that would explain, right, where he got the demon heads, as opposed to literally going to hell. But I mean, at the same time, right, like there are so many ways now that we know that he could have sort of done something kind of like that without literally doing the like Orpheus and like walking into the underworld sort of situation, right? Where like we've seen now the White in the Mountain, right? The White King, that you can, like, as we learned at the start of this book, you like things from the outside can bring a part of it with them when they come in. And so, you know, if he had some sort of encounter with like a demon or another white or something that like brought hell kind of with them, you know, he would in a sense have been there. I mean, because like I don't think it would be completely inaccurate to say that like the Skin Eaters went to hell sort of, or were like in hell, even if like they were kind of on the borderline, right?
Yeah, there was like a lake of fire and everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I have to say, very quickly, I'm not going to take too much time about this. I just finished Blood Meridian last night. And first of all, anyone listening who hasn't read it, you should read it. One, because it's really good. But two, if you're reading along or a fan of these books, I suddenly see the influence all over the place, particularly with this series so far. The Skin Eaters, like it's literally he just like pulled kind of the main plot line and like combined it with Fellowship from Lord of the Rings, and like it's, you know, which is all sort of playing in the same mythical pond of like the archetype of like group of heroes going on a long quest. But it's like the captain to me reads as like his take kind of on Glanton, and you know, Cleric has some parallels with the Judge. Like they're both these like pale white creepy dudes who say really, you know, things no one understands essentially. And clearly has a lot of secrets and a lot of mystery, and you're like, what's going on with this person? And even the name Cleric and Judge, right? Like there's I think these are intentional parallels he's drawing. And it's very, he's doing his own thing, you know. It's not to say he's like copying or anything, like very much, you know, it's just another, in the same way that I felt like in the first series I really saw a lot of the Dune influence, I'm really seeing Blood Meridian here. And really it's giving me an added appreciation, because I do think it deepens the story when it like it gives you, I guess, kind of a vocabulary, you know, to talk about what he's going for.
Nice.
Yeah, I could not agree more. I see the parallels. I've read Blood Meridian a handful of times over the years, and like I see it all over this book, especially with the Skin Eaters. It's just like it's so thrilling, and I think especially and this isn't a Blood Meridian discussion, but like the last line of like the last paragraph of Blood Meridian is you know, it's like very cryptic, and there's like this hint.
Well, don't spoil it for me. I haven't read it yet.
Okay, I won't say it. But like you know, it's very safe to say, like, you know, McCarthy's dealing with some like very like thematically super just jet black dark human nature type shit, and it's like the last line, like, I don't know, you could interpret it so many different ways, but one of them is like, you know, that there's that essentially hell is real in some sense, right? So anyway, no spoilers.
Yeah. Dan, you should definitely read it. As a huge fan of the Second Apocalypse, I think it would add to your enjoyment even more.
I probably will soon. Do we want to talk about the Skin Eaters then, since we're on the topic?
That's a good
Their
transition.
chapter.
Yeah.
Also, I did not get to the last 10 pages. I was actively reading this. That's why I was late. And I was just like, screw it. I'm just going to hop on. Like, my brain is mush. I got this book literally on like Sunday. Yeah. So I was kind of rush reading it, and I've been just super busy and traveling. So did anything crazy happen in the last 10 pages? Can you guys just spoil it for me? Like what happened in the last 10? I got to where they showed up at the fortress or whatever. And then I was like, all right, I need to get on this, you know, podcast. Just literally just like, I don't care. Like we're talking about it, you know, we should talk about it. So I just want to know.
Can I do it?
Okay. Go for it.
So this is like, I feel like I'm always fucking surprised. Like he always gets me every time. And like, and then I look back and I'm like, it was right there, you know? But anyway, Soma of the Skin Eaters is a fucking skin spy.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah. And Mimara recognizes him. because of some, like, she sees him in battle, essentially saving her life, defending her, and she's just like, that isn't any human shit, you know, like that's, and then she goes back to, you know, goes into how she was trained and, you know, when she was in moment to recognize it. So yeah, and then Akamian immediately tries to fucking blow him up with sorceries, and he like does a, you know, super flip jump, like, and like runs off into the wilderness, and like, and the skin eaters are all just kind of like, well, what the fuck was that?
Fair reaction.
They just it was funny because I think one of the skin eaters assumes that Soma was run out of the building because Akamian is annoyed that he was courting his daughter.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
But so, since when do you think he's been a skin spy, or has he always been a skin spy?
That's the question. Yeah.
And why did he protect Mimara by revealing himself?
I mean, I feel like the only time they have an encounter with the Strong that I read in this book, but I feel like it would make more sense for it to have happened in Silaugus just because everything was so chaotic. So if he wasn't always a skin spy, which is possible, I guess, I don't know. I would have to reread very carefully. Silaugus seems like the obvious answer.
Yeah.
Ooh,
But how did the council get into Silaugus? Well, I guess they have Strong there, but it's very, like, how did they know? I don't know.
Well, that's true. That's a good point.
It's interesting, but you know, if he was there, what does that mean? Maybe nothing, but.
Yeah, I'm so curious to possibly reread to see if he's dropping hints, because in like the preceding like 10, 15 pages, he does write something about how Soma appears not to be fatigued, and when everybody else is just a wreck. And one hint that he dropped. But yeah, I wonder how far back those hints go.
It would be interesting if it happened when Soma ran away. You know, if like almost this like moral, you know, poetic like retribution that he abandoned Mimara. I don't know. I'm pure speculation, but you know, I think he sort of disappeared at that point. So
yeah, certainly it was chaos and dark and nobody knew where anyone was. Yeah, that's a perfect opportunity for it.
Yeah, it makes sense because so two things. The other thing that I thought was important about that reveal is that Mimara tells Akamian that he revealed himself to protect me, which well, maybe he decided that now is a good time, not kill Augus if he was a skin spy at the time and he ran away. But if not, I feel like maybe he could have protected her without revealing himself if he was consult at Kilaugus. So the fact that he ran away, I think it makes sense what you said, Carl, that Kilaugus might be where the change happened.
That's a great point. Yeah.
But to your point, Dan, about what are they even doing there? I don't know. Are they just generally chilling? Because apparently there were dragons. The Bashrag are there, so why not consult? Or are they more recently created?
I thought that a lot of these skin spies seems very purposeful. Like they put them as again spies in position of power or crucial, you know, people to manipulate things.
That's definitely true.
Yeah, they seem like more of a scarce resource, you know.
Or do you think? Interesting. Do you think that maybe one of the other companies that died in Kilaugus had a skin spy, but then why would they want to be with the people who hunt their own, I don't know, comrades, like whatever, like people their side, people on their side? Why would they join those companies?
Maybe there was one in the Stone Hags, maybe.
Oh yeah,
because the Stone Hags were hunting the other companies. That's the only thing I can think of.
That would make sense too. definitely having, because they could work to influence the stone hacks, right? Like they could almost, because that's part of what they do beyond just spying is they like kind of help maneuver the politics, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so that would make sense, right? Because the stone hacks are definitely a force for murder and chaos, the big question, the most interesting part of that to me is why protect Mimara?
Yeah.
Like, why go out of your way to protect her to the extent that you even risk your mission? To what end?
Maybe that's a mission, to protect Mimara or protect
Exactly.
Akemian or
Like,
something.
why would they be interested in Mimara in that regard? I mean, if anything, I would be like, if they want to kill her, I'd be like, yeah, of course, like that makes sense. Empress's daughter, she's been trained. She's a witch. Like, yeah, take her off the board. But to protect her, like, do they know she has the judging eye? Like,
Yeah. Do you
that's
think it's
something
got
they're
something to do with
interested in.
that, do you think?
Or
Or
they
something to do with Akemian and them going to Ishwal, maybe? Or yeah.
yeah, or if they know through their Skin Spy network that she's not that she's freaked out by Kellis, or she's sort of against Kellis, like she's a potential threat to the Holy War. Or
That's a good point, right?
But how would she be a threat? Like the only thing she has is like the judging eye, right?
Well,
Which
she's
is later.
Yeah.
I mean, her and Akamian pose probably the greatest threat outside of the console to.
I do think protecting them actually probably does further the consul's goals, because Akamian is intentionally trying to find a way to destroy Kellis. But through understanding him, to find a way to break him. And so in that sense, it makes sense. I don't know. I mean, to protect Mimara specifically, I almost feel like it has to be, either like to turn her against Kellis, use her as a weapon, which is definitely possible, right? She's a personality. She has all this trauma around her mom, although she worships Kellis. So that's, that's the tricky part there. But the judging eye is apparently extremely rare, to the extent that Akamian only knows like folk tales about it, which we learn more about, right? The unborn, right? And that, which was freaky. But that, potentially that could be really powerful. And we've seen it is like that has to be connected to how she banished the Wraith in the mountain, right?
100%. Yeah.
Tears of God, like those don't just do that naturally. She did something.
Yeah.
Well, she definitely like sees something to where she, at one point, Akamian refers to it as a Kore, and she like refers to it very intentionally as a tear of God. Like she sees some sort of essential truth or power in it that she was able to access through the judging eye, presumably. Yeah.
Yeah, Akamian points out that the captain also has a Korai, and he was not able to banish the non-man king. So, bit of a theory building on what you guys said. If the swap happened in Kilaujas, maybe Soma Skin Spy started out not caring about Mimara, but then saw what she did with the non-man king, and decided that she's important and she needs to not die. But that leads to the question of, do we know how much these creatures can think for themselves? I think a fair amount, right? Do they make decisions, or do they do what they've been told?
They have souls. They can have souls, at least.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of those, it's like barely even touched on, but like one of those you're like, whoa, reveals in the first trilogy. So I to my mind, that means that they have some semblance of, I mean, I guess we could debate what free will even is, right? This series wants us to ask that question, but I think they can make decisions for themselves to some degree.
Okay, so that seems reasonable. If they like, so all of the other theories about Akamian, about Ishwal, etc., it requires that they know what Akamian is up to, which is possible because Akamian apparently can't tell them apart yet, right? Maybe he would have figured out the same way as Mimara if Soma had stood in front of him and leaped around like he did. But I don't know, one of his servants uh, at the palace, slaves, sorry, the people he had at his place of residence, those are a possibility. They could have figured out what he's up to and
Mm.
they want to tag along with him. Um, but why protect Mimara for all that?
That's an interesting idea. Is that they've been with Akamian all this time?
True. Maybe.
Because yeah, at that point they would have basically any opportunity to jump into.
I mean, they did know that he was against Kellus because he's been publishing his work. So
Right. Yeah. He's not
No
been
secret.
overly subtle about that.
yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think it means when Akamian talks about the judging eye? He says the judging eye is like seeing from the viewpoint of God, and it's like what does he say? He says like it's the vision of the unborn. Why would the unborn be the point of view of the gods?
So the way I interpret that is that there are all these souls waiting to be born and they're hanging out with God. And so there may be a soul or many souls designated to be born to a particular person and they are like with God, so they are seeing with the eye of God. That's how I read it, but I'm not sure.
Interesting. Yeah. Didn't think about that.
One of the things that occurred to me was just the idea of like, you know, there's this almost this like inherent innocence to the idea of, you know, because this is like going off of sort of like a very, you know, spiritual idea that like, you know, the spirit is inherent immediately, I guess, at like, I mean, even preconception seemingly, as kind of Varsha was talking about, and then at conception, right? And if the morals are based off of this kind of like inherent religious beliefs, then like, you know, they're sort of innocence. And so maybe in that sense, it's like, you know, they haven't been born yet, so they can't sin. So there can't be like, you know, that gives them some elevation.
I would think in this world, though, like the newborns are not innocent. Like, well, they are innocent, but it's not what the gods are looking for, I guess, right? Like, it seems to me like you need to do something to ingratiate the god to yourself and then be saved. Like, you're not saved by not doing anything, I guess, maybe. But I do remember at some point it was mentioned something about children in reference to the gods, but I can't remember what it was. I don't know if it was Yahweh or someone else, but yeah, I can't remember right now.
Yeah, I seem to recall that too. Women and children. There is some patron of women and children. I forget.
Yahweh. That is
Yeah.
definitely Yahweh.
Yeah. There was something else about it, but I can't remember about their salvation or absence of it or whatever. Yeah, I just can't remember right now.
So I think I was trying to logically track all the things to do with the judging eye that Akamian grudgingly gives up to Mimara. But so there's three important things that I noticed. Like, please add to the list. But one is what we just talked about, the eye of the unborn. So it's the eye of God. Two, that women with the judging eye always give birth to dead children. And third, the way Akamian says it, I like in a way your life has already been lived. I think that is interesting. So those three things I'm trying to like find the logical connection between them. So the second one, for instance, does the fact that did he mean the woman with the judging eye her life or the life of the child whose eye she might be seeing through? Because one, they are born dead, and because they're born dead, maybe like, their place in heaven is already decided, and so they're never going to come into this world to be judged. Um, but so that would also explain the third thing. But if not, I'm trying to make sense of how the three things fit together.
The third thing is similar to the white luck thing that we saw in the last book. A bit.
That you've already lived your life.
Sort of, as in, because the white luck was just like someone sort of stepping into history, because the gods already saw that history was happened like that, so he was just stepping into history, I guess, or into what was happening.
Yeah, I mean, it's the idea of determinism, and that, like,
yeah,
it plays into like the idea of the visions being literally true, like that these are things that have already happened, even though you have not personally experienced them yet. Like that time is, it just is, it's all written.
Maybe it's limited, maybe it's only special people that the gods can see or are predetermined. Maybe that's what it seemed to be, at least from talking about the white luck and the judging eye, I guess. I don't know.
That's interesting that they write the stories of some people ahead of time, or that they just are, and not everyone. I guess I'd taken it for granted that, like, it's just like this is a universal constant. But if it's the gods influencing it and deciding it, then yeah, it could just be specific individuals, right?
Because why would he mention it otherwise? Why would he specifically mention it, Akimian, right?
Well, I think it could still just philosophically be the idea that like, your life is like the future. You may not have experienced it yet, but it exists. Like it already exists. Yeah. And so regardless of who you are, like just through the judging eye or through the God's POV, right? You are just seeing what has happened and what will happen.
Oh,
it's like, foundationally.
So maybe he knows that's what she knows, that things are damned or not, because she sees them when they will die, it already is happened. So
yeah, maybe. Like one of the things that she does, I thought one of the cool sections was after Sutadra dies, and she sort of experiences, she has this judging eye moment where she witnesses and understands the way, like, the circumstances of his life essentially coerced him into being a skin eater, and coerced him into damning himself. Like, he was, in a sense, he was always damned. He had he had no good choices in so many situations that and that's sort of a backward view of it's looking back on, like, determinism, like,
right,
the circumstances in which he found himself in. And that's like, as far as I know, that's the first time she had that kind of experience. So, like, presumably there will be more, and maybe she'll start seeing in all directions. She'll be judging everyone in 4 dimensions before we know it.
Yeah. Have we seen anyone that's not damned for now? Or is everyone damned?
Mara, maybe not.
Do we know anything?
I feel like
herself?
There has to be people who aren't damned. Otherwise, like, what's the point? I mean, unless the gods truly don't care, but it kind of seems like you can win their favor. So that if you just play by their rules, you can go to some type of heaven. I don't know if that heaven is nice, but like I don't know. I feel like there has to be some way, like the otherwise, like, what's the, like, do people, it's not a crime then. Like, at that point, it's not a crime to do sorcery or like whatever, because if you're just damned, you can do whatever. Like, it doesn't matter, at that point, unless the other option is just like oblivion. But that isn't like in the conversation. It doesn't seem to be, at least.
Maybe they're already in hell.
Shit.
Yeah.
Oh, Steve, bringing back the theories from Manifest Delusion. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good point, Carl, but I don't know. Again, but it I'm not I'm not sure. You could argue in different ways because it just depends what your definition of morality and the right thing is. Possibly, I think you could say, for example, that everyone is damned because everyone is, I don't know, because the gods judge everyone to be damned, and then by that definition, then
Right. I mean, they could theoretically.
it's not a paradox. It's just it sucks, but it's not a paradox, I guess.
Right. That's just like at that point, it's almost
It's meaningless.
yeah. But I just feel like I don't know. I mean, maybe we'll find, you guys have read the books. I don't know. We'll find out. But I feel like the gods judge some people as being okay to go to some form of.
Okay. Yeah.
That's just my reading of it so far, and I get the sense, like for example, the Yachtwarian priestess whose name I'm blanking on. I feel like even though she's like also seems horrible in her own way, I feel like she's probably going to one of the heavens.
Probably
because she plays by the gods' rules, you know. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. It seems like.
Are the gods just powerful demons?
Well, I guess that also begs the question: do they decide who goes, right? Because theoretically, I guess someone could be damned, and they're, you know, it's not the gods deciding. The gods are just like these beings from the outside that can influence things, but they're not like who. They don't have the power to decide who goes to. And we talked about that with like. I think we talked about that maybe in the last episode with like the idea of like the Greek underworld, and that like, you know, it's not always like there is still this sense of like morality that determines where you go in the afterlife, but it's not like Zeus wasn't deciding, you know, this person is going to the fields of Asphodel, or, you know, it was, or even Hades, right, who rules the underworld. Like people just went to places. And I don't know, maybe I don't know enough, and someone who listens can correct me, but it does seem like there's something kind of just inherent, or there's the possibility that there's something inherent to damnation rather than the gods themselves deciding.
Yeah, that makes sense, because I mean, unless the judging eye is presenting the view of any particular god, it's not that she's saying this god is damning this person, but this other god might accept this person into their heaven. It's damnation, period. So yeah, this generic notion of damnation makes sense. I think that's how they talk about it. They have been talking about it so far, but yeah, the rest of it. So yeah, sorry, go ahead.
So I was just gonna say, so like, are the like, and then there's also the, you know, consider the perspective of the Fanim, who think that all of the, you know, the lesser gods are just demons, you know, in which case like everybody's damned.
Yeah.
You know?
But we find him a heretic, so we don't listen to him.
Not from their point of view.
Heathens, not heretics. Yeah.
I think the only people who aren't damned are just like, they're just too boring. They don't make the book.
That's a good point. I mean, she's been with the skin eaters, so it's not the right crowd to look for non-damned people. Probably.
Yeah, definitely, they're all damned. I mean, like if there's not a single one of them that, yeah, they're.
I mean, Soma seemed nice for most of it, but
yeah, but he's
yeah.
You don't become a skin eater by being a nice person, like a real, like a kind person, like truly, like you end up in that position, you know. Not to bring it back to blood meridian either, but like you start going around scalping people, even if they're like monstrous savages, right? Like you're probably not a good person. You know?
But see, that's part of what I think Mamara is seeing, and we sort of talked about this at the beginning of this series. Like, is the world better off for Kellis's influence, right? And part of what Mamara sees when Sutadra dies is like the way that the circumstances of his life forced his hand. So like possibly like the people in Blood Meridian, whom you could also make an argument for like what choices do they have? Starve or do horrible things.
Right.
That
Particularly the kid, right? That's sort of the inherent thing. I mean, that's why I'm not going to get into spoilers, but like you are very much meant to question. Like I think the book literally like basically asks you right in the opening to be like, consider the trauma that this child went through. What does that make him? What does that make it forgivable? What is it all? The question of morality and like, where you come from and how, the world you can just be born into the shit. And, what do you do about that?
Yeah. I mean, is like Blood Meridian might be like just a long form apology on behalf or a long form apology for like civilization, because because it prevents this of like, all really, really bad behavior. Right. But like, the Wild West or the Wild North, as it were, under Kellis is this, and that perhaps like the, economic circumstances or, political circumstances that all these people find themselves in, these like career soldiers, like maybe Mamara poses a threat to Kellis because she can see plainly with the judging eye that like the world is not better off for his influence. It, begets things like the Skin Eaters.
I forget, did we yeah, did she see, did we hear that she looked at Kellis with the judging eye and saw him as like holy?
No, just her vision of Sutadra as how I was looking at it.
Because if that's in that case, I am very excited. I just feel like she's going to look at Kellis and he's going to be like,
oh yeah,
just indescribibly horrible.
Or maybe it's going to be like literally like God. Like I could see it both ways, to be honest, right?
It could be, depending. I don't know. He should be like damned because he's a sorcerer.
Yeah.
And so, not even considering anything else he does, there's that. But I just feel like the universe will not smile upon Kellis.
Well, if they found a way for sorcerers to not be damned, I think Kellis would probably know by now how to not be damned. So if maybe he knows the loophole.
The loophole, yeah. Is there a loophole?
And is the loophole something that would be visible to the judging eye? Because the loophole they have currently is to close off the world to the outside, but the Kellis loophole that has to be visible to the judging eye needs to be something inherent, something you change about yourself.
Yeah. I feel like if loopholes exist, I feel like loopholes might exist in this universe, as it seems like a lot of the stuff with the gods and damnation is not like intention, it's action, which leads to being like, if you can find a loophole to, still maintain the action, but change your intention, that would still work.
How do you reconcile that though with like someone like a Camion who hasn't done that many like really terrible things?
But again, if changing reality the way gods do it, but not being a god is sin, then he has sinned a lot.
Right. And what's the loop? I guess that's the question, right? It's like how do you?
But maybe maybe the loophole is what the Shizarim had, where they could do sorcery, but not.
Right, you don't see the mark on them. No, that's a good point. Yeah, they're definitely still a continuing big question mark on how that works. Why don't they have the mark? Are they not damned?
I just want a judging eye tool that we can like apply. Let's build an AI tool for this and just ask it like, would the judging eye consider this damned or not? Because this is is the mark the entire reason that Mimara sees the sorceress as damned, or is it something else? Yeah. So Scissorum, would they be visible to the judging eye as damned or not? I just want to run it through all the things.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. I kind of want to know if we'll know more about the Scissorum, but I feel like Yeah. Can Steve and Dan tell me afterwards without spoiling it for the other two?
Who knows? Nobody knows.
You'll just have to read it, Varsha. You just have to read it.
Uh, will I find out if I read the last page of the book?
No, don't do that.
No, I'm kidding.
There's so many things to experience.
But yeah, and I mean, they got to be coming back because like
Yeah.
the son of the Patti Raja is like cruising around in
Yeah.
the lands, and he's
True, he is there. Yeah,
he's getting
That's
more gold.
yeah.
Yeah.
I guess talking about other things we don't know is what do you think is going on with the query? I guess because it seems like it maybe some sort of like it's the Lembus equivalent for this world, right? The elven food from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
It's more like
Right.
elf meth.
Yeah, it's like seems like more like a drug, right? What is he
Yeah.
giving them?
Yeah, that one is. Yeah, that seems ominous to me. Also, like.
Yeah, it seems to be helping though. Like they've been running like a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, like at what cost? Like what are the with like already Akamian's experiencing some withdrawals where he's getting like pretty edgy when it's time for his next hit, you know? And like
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't think to read that as addiction, but that makes sense. It makes sense.
yeah, I'm curious about that. I feel so much, I feel more intrigued by the non-men now than ever, having like some of the little bits and pieces that we've gotten from Silaugus and from Cleric, and the query, like what is that? Like I find them like the sort of the way that Bakker's laying out the way that they the way the non-men see the world in a completely like literally see the world in a different way, and like they don't prescribe to this like sort of like scopic regime. Like they don't have paintings because like they don't see them, like that's some like that's like some mind-blowing shit, like so they they start like chronicling their history with these really, really ornate sculptures and yeah, I don't know. I'm Cleric. There's a lot there.
I was trying to imagine what there would be like. And maybe it's sort of like they see everything just black and white. They sort of see like just light and shadow, and that's why they can see sculptures and not paintings because they're all flat. But I can't imagine how else I would justify that, I guess.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine. And they all like kind of have the same face, right? Like sort of the way that this rank kind of all have the same face. Like
but Akamian said that they can recognize each other. They only look the same to us.
Yeah,
I guess humans are racist towards.
Yeah, humans. Yeah, to humans they all look the same, right? Yeah, totally.
A little detail too that freaks me out and I think is awesome is the fused teeth. Like it's hard for me to imagine, but like what I do imagine is just like it's spooky. Like it's like it's so close, but just like a little off, and just doesn't feel right. Like you're like, I don't like it.
But flossing must be so easy for them.
Yeah, it's true. Dentistry, yeah, no problem.
Yeah, but if you ever have to get a tooth pulled, man.
Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah, does it all just come out? They wow, yeah.
It's rough.
I love the scene in which Akamian climbs up to the top of the forest, which we have to talk about that forest, by the way. But he goes to the top of the forest. Like he's been fine with Cleric so far, but he freaks out and asks him, "Who the hell are you?" When he sees him behind him. Is like, "How did you get here so silently?" And I didn't feel a thing. So that was funny. And but also I thought it was very interesting that when they got down, cleric started to forget what he had seen already. I thought their gaps in memory were like he forgot what happened a long time ago. So apparently he just can't remember and keep track of much.
Yeah, like that, and like that makes me wonder what the captain, like if the captain is just constantly like filling in the blanks for him,
Oh wow, yeah.
That's
I mean, did we already? I'm trying to remember, Steve. Do you know if we've already found description of the erratics and how they deal with the memories? I think it was mentioned.
Yeah, yeah. You're talking about like doing the worst shit imaginable just to feel something.
No, not really. But okay.
Okay. Well then, no. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Maybe it's later on. But okay, ignore me.
So Varsha, you said the trees.
Yes.
You're talking about the mop and the trees.
That's the first time I noticed a lot of the rings paddlers. Yay, Varsha spots a lot of the rings. I've been like completely clueless. I see it when you guys point it out, but I don't remember a lot of the rings at all. But sort of like not the treebeard forest. The forest is alive and it's in a very twisted way. It's feeding off of the dead, and and I guess Akamian hears the trees communicating with each other. We don't know if that's true or not, but he hears it, he senses it, and then the trees are so tall, which I seem to remember from Fangon. Like some of the descriptions seem to match. But I love it. I think my realization from the last few books that I've read, I love creepy forests. I really do.
I'm with you there. I'm with you. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's cool when they say like, they say that there's like each tree is like a soul or something like that, and you're like, you just read it as a legend, and then they're like, oh no, we went and cut the tree, and there was like a body inside, right?
Yeah, that was creepy.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. I was gonna ask you guys what you thought. Like, did it? Because there was like the implication that they almost like maybe eat the body if they're like buried with it, or like is that what was going on there? That was freaky. I don't know how you guys read that.
Yeah,
I wonder if it's some sort of like, I don't know, the trees take some of the sentience or whatever, because this is I assume this is another area which it's a bit thinner towards the outside, I guess, probably.
Yeah,
so maybe there's something else going on.
Are they just going to go topoi after topoi in this journey? But yeah, that was super creepy when they said that they found bodies underneath. It was unclear whether the trees
Inside, right?
inside the tree.
Inside, it was inside, right? It's within the core of the tree.
Yeah, they chopped down the one tree to make the stump, and that's where the like skull of a human is like embedded partially in the stump.
So freaky.
Kind of like when the skulls come out of the earth from the first trilogy, right?
Yeah.
That's a whole lot creepier than I imagined it. Sorry, Justin.
No, I think it's so cool how, again, like Bakker is always doing this with like Tolkien's lore, like he's, putting his own cool twist on it. And like in that section, he talks about how the trees are like, it's something like it takes them 100 years to come to sentience, and they're like perpetually confused, and they begrudge they begrudge creatures who are quicker than them, who are like, who can move more quickly than them. And so like the trees are like angry and slow to move, but definitely sentient, but they're not like Ents where they're like, at least not yet, they're not getting up and walking around. But it's cool how like, in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, like the Ents had previously like found sentience and have been slowly falling asleep, and these are kind of doing the opposite thing. Like they're slowly coming awake, and they're angry, and they've all rooted in the like, these former battlefields that are just like, littered with bodies and souls and blood. Yeah.
What was I going to say? I forgot. But yeah, I think I think this is my favorite place that we've seen so far. Kilaujas was, and I mean, I guess it's weird to say favorite place because all horrible things happen in all the places we've been. But Kilaujas descriptions were fantastic. But I think this one almost beats it out for me. I love the description of this forest and all the things that you said, Justin. Like for that reason, it's just how creepy it was. I thought with the when they chopped up the tree that it was uprooted and they saw skulls at the bottom. But oh my god, it's if they chopped it and the stump had skulls, that is so much scarier.
Yeah, it's so awesome. Yeah, because it came in at first as like he glanced at and he thought somebody had like carved it into the stump of the tree, and then he like looked closer and it was like an actual human skull. So awesome. I totally agree. I was so into the pop.
The series really is like as much horror as fantasy. I mean, I guess you can argue like, where is even the genre boundaries there, but like, when you think of a lot, like I don't think it's uncommon to have some horror elements in epic fantasy, but I've never seen it like this, where it's like they feel like there's just as much like just pure horror as there is like kind of the classic grandiose epic fantasy. It's awesome. I mean, it definitely gives the series its own freaky cool vibe.
Yeah, I mean the last chapters of the Judging Eye were like, like Clive Barker, like it was so wonderful. It's like, yeah, I loved it.
I have a new topic to bring up, but did we have anything more to say about the first? So Mimara does this thing when I noticed it first at the end of the Judging Eye, when she sees Cleric do his sorcery, she keeps thinking Ishroy. I think that's the word. Every few paragraphs, Ishroy. Full stop. That's the sentence. And then like she did that a few times. And she did that, and I thought the word Ishroy meant something to her. But she did that again in this book where they are being chased by stone hags. Paragraphs, 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 stone hags. Paragraphs, stone hags. Like, I don't know. I was curious what you guys made of that. It was interesting. Is she like being obsessive with the thought? Is she trying to make sense of it? Like why is it written like that?
I think it's more like a stylistic choice to just give more impact to that word, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. I also think it's for maybe just like her POV to like emphasize, as you were kind of saying, Varsha, that like she's like grappling with this, she's like shocked. These are things from like almost like legend, I mean, in the Ishroy case, literally, and that it's like, holy shit, like Ishroy, like this is real. This is happening right in front of me, and her, it's maybe Bakker, trying to like through the prose evoke that idea, that feeling.
Yeah.
And the stone hags are pretty cool. I like the stone hags. They're like, so I don't know, because there's like the skin eaters, and there's like, oh shit, there's a company even harder and stronger and more fucked up than the skin eaters, and they don't hunt the strang, they hunt other companies.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine how fucked up they must be?
Yeah.
Crazy.
And in the skin eater fucked up category, we have the captain climbing a tree in the middle of the night to go kill a guy because he's sleepy.
Oh, yeah.
That was free. Again, another pure horror scene. Like the way that he wrote that was so freaky. And the smile, oh my God.
Yeah.
It was like, oh.
Isn't Akamian free sober? Like I liked how he was trying to stop himself from crying later on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it?
That was so creepy. Just like, and then everyone the next morning not even acknowledging what happened. It's like, I'm not gonna deal with this.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna keep my head down and
I didn't even realize until that scene that the captain apparently, I've given up on saying his name apparently, but I didn't even realize that he had long hair because in the description it says like the sheets of black hair. He saw him through that. I was like, oh, he has long hair. That's cool.
It's funny. I think in the last discussion, which I wasn't at. I think Carl, you said that Sarl was Sean Gunn in your memory, right? So
yeah, from Guardians of the Galaxy, the like Captain.
Yeah. So I've been reading the Casoter as like Colonel Kurtz from Apocalypse Now.
I see it. Yes.
So like the hair was really like that didn't fit, with me, but now he's just like Colonel Kurtz with hair. So
that
Sarl is more like Gollum now or something. Like, right?
That's so true.
Well, he speaks like Gollum, doesn't he?
More and more. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's really lost it.
Why doesn't the captain kill him? He's sobbing all the time.
Is
sort
he
of.
though? Is he?
Kind of.
I don't know that he's like crying. He's just like kind of freaking out a bit. And it's he seems very harsh about just the idea of tears. You express a tear. It's like that specifically. If you like moan, he's like, fuck you, keep walking. It's slog. But you cry, sobber time,
Dude needs therapy.
Yeah.
I didn't
Slug
know
of slugs.
I didn't know Colonel Guts, but yeah, this dude is bald.
Oh.
With the long hair. That's going to be a switch.
I kind of imagine him as like, half shaved and half like long hair sort of look.
That's
and
cool.
like the hair is completely like he's washed it maybe 3 years ago or something.
Yeah.
Like oily and tangled and disgusting.
Yeah. Fair. Do you guys have any theories on what's going on with the non-man and Kosoter, the captain?
Yeah.
Is it just second apocalypse 51st dates?
Romance in action. That's I can't even respond to that. It's just the best.
That was my literal theory. You just gave it a way better name.
Maybe.
I don't know if there's like a specific plan in mind, if that's what you're asking, or like, I mean, clearly the captain is like keeping him under his yoke, but like, I don't know if they have, like, we keep getting hints that like the captain is like maybe immortal or like older than he looks, and that like there's something magical going on with him. He talks again about like he went to hell and came back, and I kind of feel like he's maybe not lying about that. Like, I don't know. He's so scary that like I just kind of believe anything he says.
Yeah.
Like he could tell me he's one of the gods. I'd be like, yep, that's Gilgale right there. Like that's the fucking guy. So, I don't even know, man.
Yeah, I was really immersed in that version of the world where he's an immortal of some sort, but then he reminded us that he's a veteran of the First Holy War, which doesn't necessarily negate that theory, but then also just he's older for having lived through the First Holy War, it seems like. So yeah, I'm very curious about that. I think that's one of the big mysteries for me.
I'm curious if it's going to stay ambiguous, because I don't think this is. The judge is ambiguous in Blood Meridian. That's like one of the big things. Like, is he human? Is he not human? He's based on a real human person in history, but it's like, what's his deal? You know, and there's a lot of like, it could go either way. It's left very ambiguous. And I'm wondering if we're going to get a similar situation here where we're like, we don't know, you know, there are all these hens, but like, maybe he's just full of shit, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I will say, I actually also feel like, I don't know if this is intentional or not, or if this is just like drawing from similar inspirations, but like, I'm also getting kind of big Euron Greyjoy vibes, not from the TV show, but from the book series, A Song of Ice and Fire, where they're both like, there's this illusion to being like, having done just like crazy dark magical things, and it's unclear if they actually have or not. And I don't know if anyone has read the Winds of Winter chapter that was released called The Forsaken, but it goes into Euron Greyjoy more, and it's like I don't know. It's just the idea of this like creepy bearded. He has a beard too, right? Like, I'm not making that up.
Yeah.
He has like long black hair and a beard. Anyway, I don't know. And he's scary. I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on with him. And I'm curious if it'll be left ambiguous or if there's like a secret. Like with the cleric, we're gonna find out. I wasn't sure if we were gonna find out, and then the fact that we keep like, Akamian again asked him, "Who are you?" Like, there's something there. Like, we're gonna find out.
So about that, Akamian thinks to himself, when he's wondering who cleric is, he wonders if he's a Kuya mage. But I thought all Norman sorcerers were Kuya mages. Is that not true? Like, isn't the fact that he's a non-man and someone who can do sorcery enough to put him in that category? Like, why do you think specifically about that?
I thought he did identify him. I don't know if it's a question. I don't know what's up there. Because yeah, I'm with you. I thought that's just the non-min sorcerers, or at least the ones that are left.
Yeah. Yeah, that confused me. Or like, is he?
I think maybe he's more thinking about like, you're not just a non-man, you're a mage non-man. Is that what he's thinking?
Yeah, let me see if I can find the portion of the like what the context was, because like it felt almost like a question. Ishroy or not, that is unknown, right? Like, I forget what Ishroy are, but that's a specific category of non-men that he may or may not belong to. But I thought the fact that he can do sorcery just makes him a Kuya mage, but I'm not sure.
I think so.
This felt
because you can be Ishroy without being a mage, right? I thought that was happening.
Say that again, sorry?
Like, the fact that he's Ishroy, he's non-man and everything, doesn't mean he's a mage. Not all non-men were mages, and not all powerful non-men were mages either. So
yeah,
I thought that's what he was like. Oh, you're not just an old non-man, you're a fucking like you're fucking mage or something.
Right.
Okay,
which is even more special, I guess.
The one here we go. Yeah. So this doesn't do page numbers. What chapter is it? Chapter 3, I guess. There is okay. So this was him wondering why a Kuya mage is keeping the company of scalpers, not whether he's a Kuya mage or not. I think I misread that time. Okay.
No, but I think that part was from the previous book. When they go into slouches and when he does his first magic and Akamian is like, oh shit, you can do magic, right? No. From when he sees him the first time, actually, because he sees the mark in him, and he's like, he's not just a normal non-man.
He knew. So this one, So this was when he sees the mercenary schoolman saying, like, he thinks to himself that he understands why a mercenary schoolman would keep scalper company, but why is a Kuya mage doing that? Yeah.
My first thought is, unless the captain has something on this guy, which I don't know, man, but he's probably like he's clearly a warrior of some sort. And, it's not uncommon for soldiers to like, especially you look at like the Middle Ages, a lot of soldiers would like, once the war was over, the men at arms, they'd be like, well, what are we going to do now? I don't want to go work a farm. I don't want to sit on my ass. So it's like, okay, we'll become bandits and start robbing people, or we'll become mercenaries, and get someone to pay us. And so I could see him just like kind of fighting is what he knows. Like kind of again getting into blood meridian thematics, like so he just sort of feels like this is his place. Like he just like finds himself doing this again. That's just my thought on it. I don't know. We'll see. I guess the point I'm getting at is that he's probably a big warlord from the past, but I don't know. I don't remember any of the non-men names. We know a bunch of kings, but I couldn't tell you a single. Is there a sin something or kin something? I may be making stuff up. I don't know. I think there's a nil.
Nil Gitkas?
No, yes, that's one of them. And then there's this one that starts with C, who is like the big one. Sinjar Sinjar.
Yeah,
that sounds almost right.
Sin,
He's like the big one.
In the more, like the big emperor guy, but yeah. Nil Gitkas is the ruler of Seleucus, right?
Well, I thought it was the white in the mountain who was.
Yeah, who was the ruler of
Was that
when he was alive?
Okay.
Right, I think. I've tried to.
I thought he had some other name that like we hadn't learned before we went to Seleucus, but
maybe.
No Gigas we've heard about for a while, but I don't remember. I don't want to look it up because I'm afraid I'm going to spoil something for myself. But
yeah, I don't dare look anything up.
The non-men names are it's hard to keep up with them.
Could you guys remind me what an Ishroy is?
It's the nobles.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. Okay, the non-men nobility. Okay, fair.
Yeah.
But why did Akamian conclude that he is Ishroy?
Maybe
some of the stuff he said.
Yeah, maybe he said something. It might even literally be the magic. Like, I think Kuya mages might be all Ishroy.
Was it? It wasn't when Nil Gitkas recognized him. It wasn't that.
So I found it in the Judging Eye book. Apparently, he just concludes that because he's super old. His mark means he's old, older than you could imagine. And that means he's not only a Kuya mage, but Ishroy, a non-man noble.
Okay.
So was it maybe because the non-man nobles were the only ones who were, quote, gifted with immortality?
Oh, is that? I thought all the non-men were.
Yeah, it must be everyone, because otherwise all of the women wouldn't have died, right?
Right.
I think.
Yeah, it was all of them.
While we're on the topic of non-men in the past, is the guy we met in the prologue, are we supposed to think that is his name? Is Ishtarabent the place? That's a place, right?
Mm-hmm.
That guy.
Yeah.
But the one who betrayed them for the consult. Are we supposed to think that's one of the consult guys, is what I'm asking? I was so unclear, and I'm increasingly unclear if the guy in the prologue of the very first book was his consult or not. I thought when I first read it, he wasn't. But now that I know they are consult, there are non-men consult, I'm wondering if he is. Because he was around the Strong, but he killed the Strong. But the Strong almost kind of seemed wild, too. So I don't know. I don't know if that's a spoiler, if that's like a thing that
we don't know yet.
Okay.
Or was he just like a feral non-man? Because
that's what I was thinking when I first read it, but I don't know. I've wondered.
Yeah, because he definitely had a relationship with the Strong, and there's in the appendices that we read, there was a term for like the Strong or the humans that non-men hang with to help them with their memories, which is another kind of like what Casoder's doing for a little bit. And it's
Oh, so it was mentioned. Yeah. That's what I was mentioning before. But it was like that the non-men have a human with them a lot of the time, erratics, that tells them their memories and all the
Yeah,
stuff they forget.
yeah, that was in the
Okay.
appendices. But yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like if that guy was, I don't know, maybe he could be consult, I guess. But
Where was it that we saw the non-man consult? I
The
forget.
first chapter of the first book of the first trilogy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Maybe. Well, we saw a non-man.
he's the guy that Kellis runs into.
Yeah.
But Carl said we also know that non-men can be
Oh, from the
consulted.
appendices, I think.
Oh, okay. Okay.
No,
Right.
not. It's not even just the appendices. It's Acadian dreams of it. The like famous trader who Seswatha
Yeah.
walls, who's like hanging. They like captured him, and he's like
Oh, yeah,
hanging
true.
at Ishtarabent. I think that's why I associated Ishtarabent with him.
I thought it was Sauglish, but yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah.
These lead together at a certain point. On the
One of those
first,
places.
yeah.
Oh, you know what? Talking about like his dreams. One thing I thought was cool, weird, was that he dreams of the library, right, of Sauglish, and
Yeah.
he sees like the door of the library with all the sorcerers and everything, and like he mentions like that the mages like trapped souls inside it to work, and I'm like, that's pretty fucked up.
Yeah, I agree. That was. I'm glad you brought that up. That is fucked up.
Yeah, I mean, did it like with the puppet in the first trilogy, right? But that magic is definitely evil.
Puppet assassins.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he didn't seem to have any qualm with it. He's like, oh, it's just a soul. Who gives a shit?
No big deal.
No big deal.
The puppet that rescued him?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I need to read these dreams more carefully. I'm completely lost on what you guys are talking about.
Well, here we didn't have a puppet. He just sees the entrance and he's got like all these amazing magic with souls trapped in it, right?
Yeah, it's.
Oh, wow. Okay. And
Yeah.
those are. Did we find out about the consult non-man in the dreams in this set of chapters also?
No, I think it's the first trilogy.
Yeah, that was like book 2, I want to say.
Yeah, Seswat is talking to him, right? Yeah. Well, I think it's the walls of Sauglish because it's where I think so, because that's where they hang all the people, and I think.
Got it. Okay. Saving it for a reread then.
The Sauglish is that pretty far north? Because that's where the coffers are then. Is that no? Yeah. Okay. Sauglish is where the coffers. So what about
it's on the map, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I was just looking at the map.
It's south of Golgotha, across the water, I think. A bit, yeah.
Yeah. So Ishwal is around Golgotha, and I guess Sauglish is somewhere in the area.
Ishwal is.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah, it's on the other part of like that big like gulf. Ishwal is also on that.
Yeah, Sauglish is like southeast.
So general.
Yeah.
So what about the baby? What does the baby mean?
Which baby?
Like he's holding the scroll with the
location.
Oh yeah.
Ishwal, and it turns into the corpse.
Oh, that was freaky. Yeah.
And then he tries to like shake it. He tries to let go of it, and it like is stuck to him. What is that? Like I don't know.
His dreams increasingly. I want to. Yeah, I don't know.
Interesting. It's in the same. It's the same chapter as him talking about the judging eye, right? I wonder if there's any relation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was also. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it was like described like a non-man baby, right? Like it was like pale white and had like black eyes, or am I misremembering that?
I didn't read
what I thought I remember, but I could be wrong. Maybe it was just described like a corpse. I don't know.
Maybe
it did say black eyes, but I thought yeah, I didn't think non-man at the time, but you're right, it could be.
But it's interesting that Seswada doesn't see it. It's like it's only Akamian. It's like Seswada is treating it like a normal thing, and Akamian is like, oh shit, I need to get rid of it. But not very right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seshwata was up to some weird crap. Like, the judging eye thing about the unborn children, that also made me think of the no god, because it all babies are born still. So I wonder if that's somehow related, like what the judging eye does and what the no god does too.
That's interesting, right? I mean, all the stuff about babies and being unborn, and yeah, I wonder if there are connections there, if that's just all like thematic.
Yeah.
There was something in one of the dreams on page 23, chapter 1 on my copy, but this is what the gasps is not what happened, or he didn't get to finish what happened. So it's almost like he's talking to a commune who's reliving the dream, saying it's not what happened. So you have to wonder what's going on there.
Yeah. Is Seshwata talking to Akamian directly now? Yeah, that was interesting. And also the baby starts talking non-man. Sorry, no god like. Tell me, what do you see? What am I?
Yeah, that's right.
And we're seeing the no god referred to as the whirlwind. I don't remember if the appendix had anything. I seem to recall it does, but it's being referred to as the whirlwind in this.
Mm-hmm.
Very peculiar.
Very peculiar.
Quotes?
Yeah.
The time for quotes?
Quote. Why are you looking at us, Steve?
There's one that I really liked. That was a dream. Dreams are the darkness. Dreams are the darkness that can only be illuminated, or dreams are the darkness that only slumber can illuminate, I think.
Nice.
That explains a lot.
Okay, Gin Ursus is the king of Silagis.
Okay.
I remember because that was a name that I feel like I didn't know before in the first trilogy. I feel like the two big names we knew were like Kujara, Sujara, Seymour, Kujara, King Moy. I don't know if they are hard C's or not. And then Nilgikas, and then the traitor. Actually, that's the third. The traitor who.
Yeah, no, you're right. Nilgikas is, but it's mentioned, right? It's the one.
He's like one of the non-king.
No, isn't it? No, isn't. Oh, fuck. I don't want to say spoiler. I need to check. Let me check before I say anything.
I'm always afraid to say too much.
Yeah. No, because I think it's mentioned in the last book. And
While you guys are looking at that, one of the epigraphs. Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, Macaratrig is the traitor.
Oh, Macaratrig.
Yeah.
I knew to look without spoiling something. I looked it up. Macaratrig. Yes, that's the dude who's hung up.
Brave.
Yeah, that was a risk, but I felt like I knew how to avoid. Oh.
One of the epigraphs in chapter 2: we belittle what we cannot bear. We make figments out of fundamentals, all in the name of preserving our own peculiar fancies. The best way to secure own's deception is to accuse others of deceit. It's kind of social media in a nutshell.
I marked that quote as well. It's like, yeah.
I like this one. Few passions require quite so much certainty as spite.
I marked a quote from Cleric that struck me as very Dunyan. where he says, "Ever are men stranded on the surface of things, and ever do they confuse what they see with the sum of what matters. Ever do they forget the rank insignificance of the visible. And when they do honor the beyond, the beneath, they render it according to what is familiar. They disfigure it for comfort's sake."
Mm,
You guys got bars.
yeah, that's real good. It is interesting how they're like they worship this like almost this like very Lovecraftian eldritch idea of like the unknown and the unknowable. That it is in that just like beyond our comprehension that they're like that's what's holy, and it's so true that we humans try to make it all make sense in how we view the world rather than like acknowledging that maybe some things are just beyond us or they're things we just can't process.
Yeah, making meaning and explaining everything according to what we know or what we're able to conceive of instead of saying we don't know, we can't know.
Well, and it's the classic thing with like I basically I off the top of my head I can't think of a faith other than maybe animism that like doesn't try to personify deities. It's like they're always like God created humans in his image, sort of thing. Like it's all like, oh, the divine looks like us, is like us in some way, rather than like the non-men being like, no, it's like it's beyond, it's like it's the height of your ignorance and ego that you're trying to make it knowable and human and concrete.
Nice. I like that. I have one more. Everyone tells lies to dull the world's sharper, more complicated edges, some more pretty than others.
That's a great one.
That is a good one.
Oh, the Nilgikas is the king of Ishtarvin. It's mentioned a bunch of times in the appendices.
Okay, so that's where.
So yeah, I always remember he was a king of something, but yeah, wrong king.
Where is Ishtarabinth? That isn't the last refuge of the non-men, is it? What's the last refuge of the non-men?
It's one of the mansions, right? It's one of the surviving mansions.
Yeah, it's way north. It's very close to Ishwal.
Yeah, it's quite north.
Okay.
It's quite close to Sauglish and I guess Golgotha, sort of. Not super close, but that same north area.
Yeah.
What's just occurring to me is Ishwal is probably a mansion, right? It's like all underground. It's built. It's got these like labyrinths. Like
Maybe.
It's described very similarly to how mansions are described.
Yeah. I mean, it's not the name of the mansions, but they could have renamed it, right?
But it's like
right. I mean,
I think we have a list of all the mansions, right? But yeah, it's around there.
Okay.
Yeah, south of Golgotha.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they may pass through it the Great Ordeal. Interesting.
I think we're going to the right of it, right?
Okay.
We're sort of going in the middle of those plains, but we don't know what their plan is, I guess. They're still a bit south for now.
They split up too.
So Akamian said that when the Skin Eaters confront him on whether they're going to make it with the company size they have, Akamian says we're going to be in the wake of the Great Ordeal.
Mm-hmm.
So they're following.
I think they're sort of like this.
Yeah, because
they're going kind of perpendicular, right?
Okay. I was thinking they're gonna like follow up in like curve up into their path and follow because it would be safer because they wiped out all the strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The ordeal is going to have to skirt that Neliost Sea, right? There's no way to see any of that water. So kind of,
The smile from Steve. Oh, geez. What's in the sea? Oh, no. Or what's in that area? Oh, shit.
Just lots of friendly fairies and happy dwarves.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, nothing is going to happen on there, right?
Oompa Loompas. Yeah.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it's pretty easy getting to Golgotha, right?
Lots of cotton candy in the circus.
I will admit I've been shocked so far how easy it seemingly has been. I mean, I guess we haven't seen the big skirmishes they have with the Strong, but like it kind of feels like they've just been walking. You know, clearly that's not going to be the case forever.
We're just starting. We're just starting.
Hitting, but
yeah, I think it's interesting how like already like it's such a mass of people that like there are these like logistical nightmares of like how do we keep supplies coming through and like yeah
That's definitely a problem they're gonna have to deal with eventually.
yeah.
I've already mentioned it, right? That they need to forage, and even that is going to be really hard, right?
Lots of people to feed.
So it's going to be a challenge. But yeah, like it's insane to say that like the beginning of a series has already been like more crazy than the last trilogy, and there's a lot to come. Like we're not even started with the crazy shit.
I don't know, there's some pretty crazy stuff in the last trilogy. You know, I mean, like just whole sections of the Holy War. Getting kicked off,
True.
Starving. I mean, going back to like having to deal with the supplies, like disease ravaging them when they have to go through the desert. That's one of the just like brutal sections.
Yeah.
Lots to look forward to.
You could say that.
For us, not for the great audience so much.
Yeah.
Cool. Any other quotes or closing thoughts before we call it a night?
It's gonna be fun.
Yes. and for anyone interested in Blood Meridian, we talked about it quite a bit today, but we're also going to be talking about it in the first week of May. If you'd like to chat with us about it, come check out the forum. And also, if you want to read this series with us, with that, let's do outros. Carl, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I am Carl. I guess I didn't even introduce myself at the beginning. So if you're a first-time listener, I'm a first-time reader. And you can find me ideally at the Page Stream Forum and not in the hellscape that is most social media. But if you want to find me on the socials, I am Carl D. Albert in most places.
Justin?
Oh, okay. Reverse. Got it. Okay, I'm Justin. You can find me also on the Page Chewing Forum and occasionally on midnightmovietrain.com.
Nice.
And I'm Dan. You can find me on Page Chewing Forum, the Endfire 17.
Nice.
Dan always takes forever. You can find me on pagechewing.com too. Come and say hello.
Yep. And you can find me on the YouTube channel Reading by the Rainy Mountain, on the podcast Speculative Speculations, and of course on the Page Chewing Forum all the time. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you in a week with chapters 4 through 6 of The White Luck Warrior. Bye.